and the rod.
Special you are, do you? How you gonna run?
Hey, and welcome to the Know It All Podcast, special edition Kentucky Derby preview and picks. We're here with Rita Cinema, longtime horse know it all. She will be
Horse
here
know it all.
to break down the Derby. She introduced me to horse racing at a very young age, and we've been hooked ever since. So, Rita Cinema, are you ready to get into some Derby action?
I am.
All right, let's start out with all the stakes races prior to the Derby. We're going to give you a handful of picks that we like out of those stakes races, and the first one we're going to start is race number 6, the Churchill Distaff Turf Mile. What are you thinking in the Distaff Turf Mile here? What did you like in this race?
Okay, well, I thought there were 3 horses that stood out as best in the field.
Is it 4, 5, and 6?
It is, indeed. Would those be your horses, too?
Well, they would be, because I started out with a lot of gung-ho on this one, wanting to pick a long shot right off the bat, and then I broke it down, and there's no chance that anybody.
There are 3 horses. There are
6.
3 horses in this race. Let's put it that way. I think they're 4. Zophel, 5 is Got Stormy, 6 is Blowout. I'm sort of seeing as Got Stormy as my favorite to win, but any one of those 3. Now, I also have a long shot bet. I don't really think this horse will win, but if you don't win a whole lot of money when you bet the favorites, but and that would be number 1, Jakarta.
Yeah, that was also the only one I thought that could maybe sneak in this field. But when I broke it down, there was nothing really I saw in here. The 4, 5, and 6 were really way ahead of every competition. There was no way to really even break it down. These other horses' times in a same distance type race on the same type of turf track was nowhere close to those 3. I did do an exacta box in this one with the 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll pay a whole lot because my guess is once the money comes in, it's going to come in on all 3 of these because there was really nothing you could do. I also did a win bet on Zophel.
Okay.
Because
I picked Got Stormy.
He was a little bit longer shot.
Yeah.
I didn't really like him overall, but he did have the fastest run of a 7 furlong race.
Right.
The problem with that is he came in second in that race. He tends to come in second and third more than he comes in first.
Right. That's why I chose Got Stormy.
Got Stormy, clear favorite, has the wins, and then the number 6 in this race, Blowout, also a solid horse, but it's a British horse. And I just didn't love it. It was not running really a whole lot in the Kentucky type races. It was more New York, and it had a couple Florida previews down there. So that was not what I loved. So we get off race number 6, the Turf Mile and the Distaff, and we go with 3 favorites. So a hot start.
Now, I assume the weather's going to be good on Saturday. So we're going to have a dry track.
And going to get to that on the Derby.
Yes.
That there's one special horse in there that got in, and he's a special kind of mutter. So if it does end up being sloppy, I was going to talk about him maybe being
I thought it was going to be a good day.
The weather is going to be clean and clear, and the track will probably be firm and
pretty fast.
So, no weather relation. I did not look up weather in this race. All right, so let's move to race number 7. The Derby City Distaff. We're crossing up words here, but race number 7. What did you like in this one?
Okay, well, there's only one horse in this one. That is clearly the winner. I mean, you don't even have to know horses very well to know that. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's Gamine.
Yes.
Horse number 4 is heads above all the rest of the horses in this race. I thought that Bell's the One, number 3, was worth a look. It's been in the money a number of times, but there's only one horse in this race.
This one I deemed sort of unbettable. I made a couple wagers that way, but Gamine is head and shoulders above. The only thing you could break down is Gamine's only loss, technically speaking, was in the Kentucky Oaks last year as a long favorite. She was pretty much undefeated before and after, and she got in this race and somehow blew it and did not win. So maybe she doesn't like Churchill Downs, but the class
she gets nervous. Who knows? Yeah.
But the class of horses in that Kentucky Oaks is much, much higher in this one.
Yeah.
So in this one, I went with 2 different sort of long shots that I thought could hover in there, and that was the one in the 5. The one Altisto Talentoso, I guess is how you grind that out. But it had a decent little run. It ran a 3rd in a Grade 1 stakes race the last time out. Its speed numbers are not great, but solid enough. And 2 places in 1 show this season. And then the number 5, the Hibiscus Punch, is coming off 2 straight wins. Now, one of those, granted, is an allowance race where she was an even money favorite.
Well,
but at least she has won 2, including beating Estisto.
And won her last race, too.
Yes.
Actually, that was my long shot bet as well, number 5, Hibiscus Punch. I don't really see that horse winning, but it was a good long shot bet. I also wondered about, since there are only 6 horses in this race, could you do the exacta where, I was
going to say I did that. I did a win-place show on both the 1 and the 5, those 2 long shots. Maybe Gamine hates Churchill Downs and will never return after this race or something. So I said, put the money on there. Maybe you could still hit a place and show.
I still don't think you're going to win a lot of money. This race might be one just to save your money.
And then the one I did do was an exacta box with the 154.
Right.
So you got Gamine in there. You could also do the 4, Gamine to win it, and then wheel the number 2. So you have all
that's
the
what
other
I was
horses.
thinking. You go through all the horses with Gamine.
But I don't think that still would pay all that much. You sort of want that exact box to hit and that 5-4 to come in first or second, and then have Gamine come in second place there. So that's all I got for that one. But that race was pretty standard. I don't think you could go pretty much off that time.
Right.
I was struggling hard to find a winner for that one. The next one was a little bit deeper field.
The rest of the races get a little bit more competitive.
This one's much more competitive. The Pat Day Mile. Where were you looking in the Pat Day Mile?
Okay, this is race number 8. Actually, I thought there were some good horses in this race.
I hear it in my trifecta box because I might have every horse in the field.
It took me a while.
I think a couple also might scratch in this one. It was a pretty deep field.
Of course, we don't know that. And there are quite a few horses in this one.
That's what I think a couple might pull out.
Yeah. I narrowed it down to 3 that I picked as I thought were the best horses in the field. And they actually, 3. Prevalence horse number 5, which has a pretty good win in the money.
Yes, they also ran in the Wood Memorial this past year. Now we're going to get into how bad I think the Wood might have been, but it did run in the.
But it didn't.
Wood.
It didn't finish in the money. In
but but funny enough, it was the co-favorite in the Wood Memorial, and
the Wood was kind of not a good race.
So it
was real slow.
Yes, that's what sort of scared me off here. Is I didn't regard the Wood. We'll see that in my Kentucky Derby picks as a great race. So if you were the favorite and came into the Wood and didn't run well, what is your chances here? But
among the horses in this race, though, that one Prevalence has fairly good speed.
Yes, it does. Also it's very expensive and has very high breeding. It was $150K sire from Maglio Dell'Adoro. So
Maglio d'Oro. The other horse is Dream Shake. I thought was worth a look.
I had Dream Shake as well.
Another one that has finished in the money and has pretty good speed and has Flavian Pratt,
Yes.
who has been, I think, the leading winner this year at Churchill Downs.
You're going to see my trends that have a lot of Flavian Pratt hovering around.
Actually, the horse I picked to win is Jackie's Warrior, number 3.
We are on the same page here.
See, I brought you up to know these horses.
Yes. My two, I did a trifecta box with a bunch of these because I think there could be a number of combinations because this really is a deep field.
Yeah.
But my two I really liked was the 3 and the 6. The 3 being Jackie's Warrior. Really, if you look at
Starring in My Dreams is good.
she built into her 2-year-old season and was having a really good run and was one of the favorites going into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Was running against Essential Quality, got beat in that Breeders' Cup Juvenile, then ran in the Southwest Stakes and didn't do well in that one. But as a 2-year-old, Jackie's Warrior was regarded as one of the premier horses, and it just hasn't worked out so far this year.
Yeah. Well, that's what it hasn't had a great 2021. It had some good races in 2020.
Yes, it was a star 2-year-old.
Yeah.
And then it showed up in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, did not run well.
Right.
And then when it turned 3 and ran that Risen Star versus Essential Quality, and then it didn't show up in that one either.
Right.
And so it's 2 times it's stepped up, you'd probably say, into the high class of horse racing. It hasn't run well, but before that, it was running great. So I really still liked the quality in the number 3 horse there.
Well, I do have a long shot in this one, too. It really is a pretty big long shot, I think, for this race, as many horses are in here, and that's Noble Reflection, number 11.
Noble Reflection. I took a long.
It hasn't raced a lot, but he's done pretty well. She's done pretty well. It's a she, right? Yeah, this is.
But I took a long look
Phillies.
at that one, and it ran in the Lexington Grade 3 just I guess it was probably 2 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. One of the horses is in the Derby now.
All 3 of them. Oh, no, 2 of them. 2 of them that finished are in the Derby. Yeah.
Because 1 point got you in the Derby.
Yes,
this year,
okay, not the end of the Derby, let's put it that way.
But my number 6 was the other one I liked. Starring in My Dreams.
Yeah.
She ran in the Lexington. She finished 3rd in that one.
Right.
The Louisiana Derby, she ran in that one. She did not run great in that one, but I was looking at her more as competition. She's faced very high level competition.
Yeah, she's been running against the horses that are in the Derby.
Yes, that's where I got it. Now, she ran her first maiden race. She won that one. Then she ran an allowance race, won that one, and then they stepped her up, and that's where she struggled a little bit, and then they sort of eased her back into that Lexington, and she got back in there. So I think there could be a little bit of a jump in that one. Dream Shake I really did like. It was one of the favorites going into the Santa Anita Derby, and it no-showed a little bit in that one. That one really was a weird race overall, and it didn't do great in the San Felipe either. But once again, that was also a very deep race. So I think we were both looking at how deep the fields some of these were running in, and maybe as they step down in class, they'll bounce back up.
Well, it's like you got the second tier here. The first tier went to the Derby, and we got the second tier. So it should be a fairly close race.
Well, the other thing I was going to say, the winner of this probably might take a peek at the Preakness coming up in a couple weeks if it has a really good run.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I mentioned my trifecta box. Basically, I did the 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8. So I pretty much had all those high-level horses that weren't quite Kentucky Derby level, though they probably all ended up being Kentucky Derby level by the end as they qualified, but we're right there. And so I put them in a trifecta box. That'll be a little bit pricey, but I think any of those horses will definitely come in. All right. Next up, we're going to the American Turf Stakes. This was another really deep race. We're getting into really high-level horses here. Now, these are really high.
This one was tough.
Yes. This one, I had a couple that I really liked.
Me too.
I really had trouble separating what I liked and didn't like. Right. So I'm curious who you like in this one.
Well, I had to make some choices on this one. I didn't want to pick every horse, and there are several that are look pretty good in this race. I think The two I saw as the quality horses, maybe a little bit above the others, are number 4 Annex and number 13 Scarlet Sky.
Yes.
Those were the two I picked.
Yeah.
But I thought there were some other horses that could be in the money too and be competitive. Any of these could win. Number 5 Du Jour.
Yes.
And number 2 Win From Within.
Yes.
All 4 of those horses, I think, look good. I thought Annex and Scarlet Sky were the best of the bunch.
Well, my strategy on this one was I passed on the favorites there because I just think this is a deep field. I didn't think there was a ton separating Annex, who's a really good horse, from those middle tier. So I covered a bunch of the middle tier ones. I was going to do win play show bets on the 5, 6, 9, and 10. They're all sort of middle of the pack. They've had good races. They've had bad races. You mentioned Du Jour. I really, really liked Du Jour. And I'm guessing he's going to get bet pretty heavy because he is a Baffert horse with our man Flavia Pratt on him.
I think, I think you put those two names there, Baffert and Pratt, and you've got a lot of money going on that horse.
Derby Day, when that race goes, I bet Du Jour gets bet down pretty low.
Yeah, you're not going to win any money on that one.
Then Royal Prince was the 6th. I really, really liked. He's won 2 straight races, the Bayou City and the Black and Gold. They aren't high-level stakes races, but he's coming off 2 wins, and he ran real well as a younger horse. And then Holy Vow, the long shot. It's hard to judge on this one because he's basically been running maidens and allowance races, and then he stepped up into that Bayou and he came in to a second there. So it's really hard to get a gauge of what level this horse is.
That one would be a real long shot there. You would win some money.
Yes. It would, and that's sort of where I was at. I just sort of threw a couple of the mid-tier ones in there because I just didn't think the favorites were too much of a favorite in this one. So I was just gonna sort of hover around and hope maybe one of those mid-tier long shots or the long shot comes in this one. But I really had trouble separating because I think all these horses were pretty much in and around the same sort of skill level.
My long shot in this one is Dynamite.
Oh, you like Dynamite?
I like Dynamite.
I stared at that one a little bit too. It's definitely been run.
And it's run against some top horses in the last few races.
It's run against some very high level horses. The only thing I just didn't
hasn't won, but
that's but
he has won several races.
It pops up races where it wins. Yeah. So I think that's just what scares me off. Is this going to be the race where he finishes last, or is this going to be the race where he pops off a really good race?
I made a decision to pick that one as my long shot. I don't really think Dynamite will win this race.
But see, that's
very much outclassed by the top
horses.
But I
think that's what it means. I think you could see any of these really sort of come in, and you could sort of be like, well, it ran all right in this stakes race, and it had a good maiden and allowance running career, so it stepped up in there. All right, we'll move on to the race number 10, the Churchill Downs Stakes. This one had a couple in it that I really sort of liked. That I've actually been betting on for a while, and I had an attachment to, so I couldn't break my attachment.
I think I know one of them, perhaps. I don't know.
But
I know you have an attachment. Name one.
Yes, but I had an attachment too. I actually bet on it. It's the last race that it won and won money off.
Yeah.
But I've been betting these 2 horses for quite a while, and so I might be a little biased in this race. I don't know if you should ride with me on this one or just go with my bias and hope it comes out.
Well, I think there are, again, 2 horses that are the best in the field, and that's Flagstaff, which I'm assuming is the horse you're talking about.
That one is the one I bet on.
Since you lived in Flagstaff for a while.
It's the one I bet on in the last race.
And Whitmore. I think Whitmore, number 9, is the other top horse in this. And I picked Whitmore, but it was a toss-up. It could be either one. They're both pretty successful horses. And then just based on the speed numbers and the win record and, win play show records, I had 3 horses that I kind of liked. Again, I don't know whether you'd call them long shots or not, but they're not as good as Flagstaff and Whitmore. Yes. One is number 1, Fat Man. Number 7, Sasha Shake Me Up.
Oh, yeah.
And number 12, Endorsed.
Endorsed.
Those were my
I looked
three
at that one.
favorites.
My other one was the number 3 horse, Basin,
yeah.
who I was on last year before the world came to a close. And
Yeah.
it's hard to tell. He was going to be one of my Derby favorites. He did not run well.
And he hasn't raced a whole
No,
lot.
and he hasn't,
In the past year.
He ran those prep Derby races. He did not run well in the Arkansas Derby. He finished second where he was going to be a favorite. And then for some reason, I don't know, they ran him in, a race, that Bluegrass Stakes like a month or two later because, the calendar was off. I guess trying to qualify him for the Derby or maybe
he had
the
trouble
Breeders.
in that race.
And he was awful in that one.
Right.
And that just sort of got everything bad.
Right.
He switched trainers to Pletcher for this season, so that might be why he hasn't run quite as much.
Yeah.
He finished a second at the Amsterdam, and then he won a small stakes race. Now, this is where my bias comes in, because last year, before we were in mid-pandemic and we were starting to think about Derby horses, I was on Basin, and then the world got messed up, and he ran sort of poorly. The calendar got all messed up, and he did not run well. So I'm going to stick with him, and maybe as a 4 or 5-year-old, he sort of has the career we thought he was going to have.
Well,
so I just did a 3-4.
He's got a ways to go.
Yeah.
He dropped out a little, but he's got a lot of good races.
Yes, I did an exacta box with the 3-4 and then a win place show with the 3-4. But I readily admit there was a lot of bias in this race with attachment to horses that I had previously known and won with. Basin I didn't necessarily win with.
I'll be surprised if Flagstaff and Whitmore aren't in the money on this one. Yeah.
All right, the number 11 race, the Old Forester Bourbon Turf Classic. Now, I'm very curious where you came off in this one. I had a real hard time handicapping this one.
Yeah.
I did not really find one I truly, truly loved. I did end up picking a couple here, but I'm just curious where you went off on this one.
Well, this one was hard for me as well, and I finally came down on number 3, Colonel Liam, as probably the favorite.
He was my last cut. So.
Yes, was he? And also Domestic Spending, number 5. I think that's the other one that I liked. This one has a strange horse in it, though. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll throw out there that I did like Ride a Comet
that
a lot,
was one
too.
of them I liked. At 5-1, the number 9, Ride a Comet.
That Ride a Comet has won a lot of races, but I can't tell. It's got a pretty good speed rating.
Yes, he's solid. I don't love him as the far outside on this turf race because I don't think he'll go to the lead. He's not that type of horse, and then he's going to get stuck back in the pack here.
That's what I was a little afraid of too. But I did like Ride a Comet. But there's a weird choice in here too. Or at least in my mind, it was a little bit hard to figure out, and that's this Brazilian horse,
the Brazilian
Ivar.
one? Yes.
Because that horse has huge speed numbers.
Yes.
Has not raced a great deal in the U.S. at some, and has kind of been up and down, and it's pretty hard to tell.
Yeah.
I tell you what I thought with this horse. He's going to blow everybody out and win, or he's going to come in last and be really awful.
Well, that's what I was trying to.
I don't think there's any in between on
judge
this one.
here. The one thing they did bring him over for the Breeder Cup Mile, which is the first thing that caught my eye. Is it? I don't know if it was a money play or what, but they put him in one of the
Well, he's
biggest.
won a lot of races, but he raced in Argentina for a long time, and you got to think he probably. I don't know that he had the same kind of competition.
No, I'm assuming.
there.
But then when he came here, he won.
He had a couple of good races.
He won 2 stakes races here, and then finished 3rd in the other one. So I mean, he wasn't out of his class until that Breeders' Cup Mile where he didn't finish. But I don't know how much you hold that against him. Those are
Yeah.
usually 10 to 12 horses of such elite class that
Right. I think it depends on these other horses and what he's running against in this race. It's hard for me to tell.
the only thing that also made me a little nervous, he hasn't run yet in 2021.
That was part of it.
So
he hasn't
I'm-
run since November
yes.
of 2020.
So he's, like you said, I think he's either going to come
He's
out
going
the
to blow
block
everybody out, or he's
and
going to
blow
be at the back of the pack.
we
I
are
really
going
think
to see
that.
him. And
And I don't know if it's worth a
yes, I
bet. If you got a little extra money, throw it on Ivar.
Yes. I had two in this one. I didn't like his positioning, but I liked the horse overall, more probably on breeding than actual production, because he hasn't been all that production. He won the San Marcos, a grade 2, and then it's mostly allowance and maiden special weight. It's the number 1 Master of Fox and Hounds.
Yeah.
It was $150,000 off of Warfront, so he has class, and somebody thought he was going to be a great horse.
Yeah, I couldn't quite go with him. I didn't think
He
was
did not look good. The other part of
stand
that,
out.
he's on the inside part of the rail on the turf.
got that number
so
1
either
spot.
he's going to have to jump onto the lead, and
Yeah.
from watching stuff, he's not that kind of horse who jumps right out
Yeah.
there on the lead. So then he's going to have to be back and maneuver around and get
And it
in
says
there.
he has no late kick,
Yes.
at least in a couple of his races.
Yeah.
So
And then the,
he better get out there in the front
yes.
and hold on.
And this is it's not Kentucky Derby deep, but for a turf race to have 9 horses,
Yeah.
it's a pretty packed field. The other one, you mentioned it, the number 9, Ride a Comet.
Write a comment.
I also sort of liked, but his 2021 1 win, 1 show, but he does have lifetime 8 wins. So
Yeah, he
really,
has a winning record for
yes,
sure.
I
And
really,
wins too,
Yes,
not just in
yes.
the money kind of
yeah.
wins.
So
but-
I thought that was a pretty solid horse to ride on for the Bourbon Stakes. But there was no other. I really struggled to find one in this one to really latch on to. So I was grasping at straws a little bit for this race before. The big one, the Kentucky Derby. So are you ready
Are
to
we
get
ready?
into the big race, the Kentucky Derby here? We'll
let
go
me get
through
my papers up here.
all 20 horses, and you tell me if you think they are maybe worth a small wager on, if you think they're a contender, or we ought to scratch them off the list and
right.
probably send them home and not pack this 20 horse field.
There are a fair number of 20 horses. First of all, with 20 horses,
Yes.
you never know what's going to happen. So you may have a great horse and it gets caught somewhere or gets disqualified, as maximum
Yes.
security knows, and you just don't know. With
Well, I
Kentucky
will
Derby.
say the Kentucky Derby, which was in the fall, but
Yeah.
quote unquote, last year's Kentucky Derby with the single gate where they don't
Oh,
break.
yes.
I
Yeah.
thought it ran a little bit more true to form, but
It
it's
was
still
definitely more.
it's still 20 horses in the field.
Yeah.
So either if you got to get up front, or you better be far in the back and have
Yeah.
a real kick, because if you get in the muck in that middle, you're probably getting caught in there, and
You better
not
be
getting
really
out.
fast
Yes.
so you can swing wide, is what happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So
All right.
let's start with the number 1 known agenda, the Florida Derby winner. Interesting career, because up until the point of the Florida Derby, not really all that much on the resume. His race before the Florida Derby was an allowance race. He ran in 2 stakes races as a 2-year-old, and Candy Rocketman and Brooklyn Strong beat him. Both who really weren't even true Derby contenders. We'll get to Brooklyn Strong a little later. He was one of the late entries in there. So what do you make of known agenda and the big win at the Florida Derby? Because his speed numbers are there.
Yes. I'll tell you
Also,
what.
his breeding is there, I should say. It's a Curlin horse. So
Absolutely. Comes out of Curlin. This horse, to me, should be at the top of the list. I think Known Agenda is one of the horses that could win this race.
yeah.
However, I think Known Agenda is in trouble being on the rail.
Yes.
Because I'm not sure it's just so hard. You've got to speed out of that gate and you got to hold your position, and you're up against the rail. I just have my doubts. Although he's got a really good, he's
Yes.
got one of those Ortiz. I read Ortiz
Yes.
riding him, and Todd Fletcher is his trainer. But I just kind of have my doubts that he's going to be able to win. So I think he's a favorite. I think you got to pay attention to him. But I don't like that post position for him.
Yeah, that would be my number one thing, the post position.
Yeah.
One, we mentioned it in the last race. He's going to have to do one or two things. Either go to that lead or drop off, flip around and swing out wide, which there's no telling what that will take out of him. I was really impressed with his Florida Derby run. And actually, if you look at the Florida Derby, it was probably the deepest field of the prep races leading up to it.
Well, I think that's a real positive.
I think everybody sort of, because the Florida Derby takes place so early, I think everybody thought other horses were going to be in much deeper fields, and then all of a sudden it comes full circle and you look and you go, oh, that Florida Derby was actually really deep. That's quite an impressive win to win that one.
Very impressive win. I think you have to consider this a top horse, but he's going to have to be run perfect with it being in the first.
One spot is going to be very, very
It's not good.
All right, we'll move to the number 2, the Long Shot Like a King, the Jeff Ruby Stakes winner. I crossed this one off pretty quickly.
Okay, I am picking Brooklyn Strong as my last place horse. That may not be very fair, but I don't see anything here to make me think he's going to be in any place but last place in this race.
Yeah, I took him in the Wood Memorial Brooklyn Strong here. So he disappointed,
get ready for more disappointment, I'm afraid.
I will say I was probably swayed. I was listening to a Pauletta podcast that week with a lot of New York horse experts on it. And
they all want him to win.
I think they all just liked the name Brooklyn Strong, so they all attached to him and were giving me a bunch of phony speed figures on how great he was. But
he has pretty low speed numbers compared to the other horses in this race.
Other than, he had 2 minor stakes race win, and then in the Rasmussen he won, but he beat Known Agenda, you will say, in that one. But like we said, Known Agenda had been bad up until the Florida Derby, where it finally found its form. But that Wood Memorial, which I'm not regarding as a very good race, I did not like how that was run. It was run terribly slow. So I'm crossing out pretty much any of those. We'll go to the number 2. We skipped one there. The number 3.
We did, didn't we? Did I do that?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're good. Brooklyn Strong, the number 2, Like a King. You could
Like a King. I just wrote him off.
You could probably cross this one off as well.
Yeah, I haven't picked him for last place, but maybe I should.
But I will say he does have better breeding than Brooklyn Strong. Palace Malice. Very high level horse. He won, like I said, he won the Jeff Ruby Stakes.
I was going to say, you did say that, and I knew Brooklyn Strong had won the red.
Other than
Ruby
that,
Stakes.
I don't know what much I like him. I thought it was a good win to beat out Sainthood, who I don't know if I have winning, but I think Sainthood could be a closer in this race. But Sainthood's sort of built for this, where he will just stay in the back of the pack and then close. I don't really know what they're going to do with Like a King. I'm assuming they're going to try to get him out on front. That's the other thing. I don't think this Derby is loaded with a bunch of speed horses. All the speed horses are the ones that really pulled out. So I'm very...
but the ones that are left, the favorites are the speed horses.
Well, that's the thing, though, but I don't think any of them want to go to the lead. So
maybe not,
But I think they're all...
They don't want to lead the whole race,
That's what I mean. I don't think
they
any
don't
of
want
them
to set the pace.
Want to be up there and setting the pace.
Right,
So
They'll hang back a little
the
bit.
The handful of ones that I thought were going to be in the race and ended up pulling out, that I thought would be the ones to go to the lead, aren't there. So I did look at Like a King. I thought maybe he would be one to go to the lead, but that's not...
He won't be able to hold it.
That's what I mean, and it's not necessarily his style as well. So anyway, Like a King. Any love on that one?
No, I don't even have any notes other than,
he has
forget
good
it.
breeding.
Yes, but he's not going to factor into this race unless he blocks somebody else from winning it.
All right.
All right. Sorry about Brooklyn Strong. Do you have anything else to say?
No,
I messed up there.
All right. Keep Me in Mind. this is one of those that got in the race that I am
Yeah,
not.
I don't have anything good to say here either.
Why he got in the race?
Yeah.
He did win the Kentucky Juvenile. I will say that. That race was run in November.
He was fifth in the bluegrass.
Yes.
I don't know.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The Rebel, he did not put in the money. The Bluegrass, he did not put in the money. He did run second to Essential Quality in the Breeders' Future. But other than that, I haven't seen a lot from Keep Me in Mind. Any notes?
No, I have nothing else to say. I don't think Keep Me in Mind will be a factor. And Keep Me in Mind could challenge Brooklyn Strong for last place.
Yes,
How about that?
I think so. All right, so we're going to get to one I have a little bit of a liking to. I don't think it's going to win, but I do think it's a closer, and I think he'll sit back and then close. We mentioned him, Sainthood. He ran a second in the Jeff Ruby Stakes, and he just missed closing in on that one. Not a lot of races. He's lightly run. He didn't run as a 2-year-old. He's only had the 3. So you had the maiden race where he finished second, and then he won his second maiden race, and then he competed in that Jeff Ruby. So a second. I think more than anything, I like the 50-1 odds. You're giving me 50-1 odds. He's run stake race, and he closed. So that's why I like Sainthood.
Sainthood is definitely my long shot bet. If I want to bet a 50-1 or include him in one of your exotic
that's what
bets,
I was going to say. He's definitely going to be in a lot in the exotics. I'm going to throw
I think it's an up and coming horse.
Yes.
I might add that
we might be talking about him in the races earlier.
I think you're going to see
4, 5,
him.
and 6
I think he's going to win some more money down the road, and he comes from the same group that won with Justify.
Yes.
I might add that the owner of Justify and of Sainthood went to the same high school that I went to. He's a couple years older than I am, Kenny Trout. Anyway, so I have a connection to Windstar Farms horses. But I think this is, this is your long shot horse. That
own one of those horses.
I wish I knew Kenny better. Anyway, I think Sainthood's a long shot that's worthy of consideration, unlike some of these others.
Yes. Yeah. All right, we'll move to the number 6. This one I do think probably will be one of the ones we were talking about that might go to the lead.
Yeah.
Obesos, Louisiana Derby, finished 3rd. Risen Star did not finish, but I kind of like him. I don't love him.
Yeah.
I don't think I put him in my horses that I think I put it even in my exotics, but I do think he'll be one of those that might go to the lead. So,
I was thinking that he might be one of the ones that could catch the lead. That he has some speed, that he can rally.
Yes.
and pull up and surprise some people. I don't know. I can't decide if I really think he'll be in the money, but I think he's anher one that you do have to think about.
Yes.
In terms of a bet. I think.
Also, he's good breeding with Orb. So
Orb was a Derby winner.
Correct.
Yes,
So
this is the only horse that is out of a Derby winner.
Some legacy.
Yeah. Although I did read that doesn't happen very often.
And I think Orb has lots of children. So
yeah, I was going to say this is one of many. I'm sure
there are probably plenty of Orb kids who are running and claiming races.
But when your dad's a Derby winner, you get to brag a little bit.
All right, we'll move on to
and some people will bet money on him because of that.
We'll move on to the number 7, which was actually my favorite going. Let's go prep Derby, Mandaloon.
Yeah.
And I thought we were in good shape, and we were going into the Louisiana Derby, and we were going to coast into the Kentucky Derby as like a co-favorite or a little off the favorite. And then the Louisiana Derby was run, and he was just awful. Just awful. So I have no idea what to make of Mandaloon now. I still like him. Won his first 2 races, then won the Risen Star, and won the Risen Star pretty easy.
Right.
And then you got that weird, complete, and utter no-show with the Louisiana Derby. So
I think this horse might be one of the ones that presses the pace a little bit, perhaps. Gets in there. He's in the 7th slot, I think, isn't he? Which is a pretty good spot. So he could press the pace a little bit. I think he's done that in other races from what I've read.
Yes.
And I don't see him coming up to win this
No.
race, but I think he could press the other horses.
Yeah, I'm still going to probably ride with him and just maybe try to chalk the Louisiana Derby. It was a bad day. He didn't feel like running, and he got beat. And he got beat by a couple, all three are now in the Kentucky Derby. Who
Right.
beat him.
Yes,
So
yeah.
technically speaking, he didn't lose to duds.
Right.
But,
He's a good horse. There's no
when you
question.
go in
Good
there
breeding.
thinking you're going to win easy, and
Yeah.
then you don't even finish in the money.
Well, then people start not believing
Yes.
in you anymore.
Next up, Medina Spirit.
Yeah.
I think Bob Baffert. I think we thought we
This
were
is the only Bob
I was
Baffert
going to
horse.
say we went from having probably like 10 Bob Baffert horses in the Kentucky Derby,
Right.
thinking in the preseason to having one.
This horse has been in the money a fair amount,
Yes.
but not a big winner.
It's not a real winner. Second in the Santa Anita. I thought it ran pretty well in that Santa Anita. Second in the San Felipe. Did beat your Dream Shake, who you were talking about earlier. Life is Good, who was going to be a Derby favorite.
Yes, and
Also a Baffert horse, but did
Yeah.
not make its way in here.
none of the other Baffert horses.
No, is out. And
Concert
then,
tour.
and then the Rebel Lewis Stakes, it won that one. So it's hot and cold.
Yeah.
The thing I don't like about it, it's I think if you could get that 15-1, I'd go with it. But my guess is people are going to see Bob Baffert's name.
They're going to bet money on
They're going
this
to
horse.
see John Velasquez as
Yes,
the jockey, and
right.
that thing's going to end up
Yeah.
going off as like a 5-1.
I wouldn't put
horse.
any money on this horse.
And
I think
I can't go
I think
there.
a lot of people will do that. Put money on the horse because not because of the horse, but because of the trainer and
Yes.
jockey. And I'm not sure in this field that this horse is going to be
Yeah.
one of the ones that is.
Would you put it in one of your exotics? That's where I was debating. I don't think I ended up putting it.
Possibly, but it wouldn't be tops on
That's
my
why
list.
I was scared
I
off
just think
even
the
in that.
odds are.
Yes.
It's not a bad horse, but I think the odds are impacted by Baffert's
Yes.
name.
I think if you told me I could get 15-1,
Yeah.
I'd buy it. But I
Yeah.
think I'm getting 6-1 by
Yes.
race day because everybody's
Yeah.
going to see, oh, Bob Baffert, oh, John Velasquez,
Right.
oh, second in the Santa Anita, and
Right.
it's just going to be money pouring in on
Yeah.
Medina Spirit, and I don't think the value's there anymore on it.
yeah.
All right, let's go to.
If I remember, Rock Your World won pretty handily over
Yes, it
Medina
did.
Spirit.
It was not a close.
It wasn't close. Yeah.
Hot Rod Charlie, the number 9. Now, this one's a little bit
Yeah.
interesting here.
I think Hot Rod Charlie is worth a look.
The winner of the Louisiana Derby.
Right.
Now, the Louisiana Derby has not always trended well
No,
into the
I
Kentucky
know.
Derby. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it did at one point in time, but
Yeah.
in modern day, it has not trended well.
Right.
But I think this was probably, the Louisiana Derby probably ended up being the second deepest race to the Florida
Yeah.
Derby in here in terms of depth in the field. It ran really, really well. The problem is here, before the Louisiana Derby, it did not really have all that great a run. It ran in the
Yeah.
juvenile, ran second to Essential Quality, but was beaten there. Then a long third in the Rebel, lost to Medina Spirit and Roman Centurion, and then it, somehow pulled away and won that Louisiana Derby. The numbers are there, nice breeding at Oxbow, Flavian Pratt, the jockey. So there are things hovering around here to like.
Yeah, and here's another little fact that the race he won, I can't remember which one it was, but when he maybe
Louisiana.
the Breeder Cup Juvenile or the
No,
Louisiana,
he won
one
the
of them.
Louisiana.
He won one that was 1 3/16 of a mile.
Yes.
And he has run the longest race
Yeah,
of any
that's
horse
the
in
Louisiana.
this. And yeah, that's what. And he won that one, so he's prepared to run a long race. The other thing is his trainer Doug O'Neill has won the Derby twice.
Well, that's what I was
So he's
going
not,
to say.
you
The
know,
other thing is
to be overlooked.
Fletcher gets a lot of the pub as a big time trainer after Baffert, but really I think Doug O'Neill is the second to Baffert here. So Doug O'Neill horses I definitely stare.
I think you have to consider Hot Rod Charlie
Yes.
a contender for
Yes,
the win.
definitely.
I don't. He's not my top horse. It's hard to go with him
Yes.
for But he's definitely a contender for the win.
Yes, definitely so. All right, we'll move on to another one. The second place horse in the Louisiana Derby. And one I like a little bit too, been well run, tis now breeding, Midnight Bourbon, out of the 10th spot. Mike Smith on him.
Yep.
Second in the Louisiana Derby, third in the Risen Star, and third in the Champagne. Lost to our Jackie's Warrior. So,
Yeah. Interesting.
yes. So, I mean, it has the class.
Yes.
It belongs in here. Can it sneak a win in here?
I think Midnight Bourbon could, again, be in the I don't see it as a winner of this race because I think there are just some horses, unless something happens, as I say. And,
Yes.
they're just better horses in this race, faster horses. But I think you can't ignore this horse.
No.
He's in kind of my second group of really good horses that could at least be in the top
Yes.
three.
I have him in a bunch of exotics. Yeah. I'm in debate mode whether to really put him in there to win. But I do like him, and I did like his run in the Louisiana Derby.
I think the Louisiana Derby was a pretty fast pace,
and also
too,
he probably should have won. If you go back and watch, he should have won the Louisiana Derby. He got nipped right at the end. So I mean, I think
it's hard to consider Hot Rod Charlie as a contender and not be serious about Midnight Bourbon.
Who's definitely run in this class. So I don't think he will see all these high level horses and then freak out that there's a lot of speed going on. Next up, Dynamic One, number 2 in the Wood Memorial, and then a bunch of maidens. And it didn't even run all that well in these maidens, which...
this horse has pretty good speed numbers, but the Wood is just not a good judge.
Yeah, that's why we'll get to...
Who's going to win and
Bubonic and see your thoughts on him, who ended up winning the Wood. But I just... This one was an automatic cross-off. It was struggling in maidens up until the point of the Wood, and then finished a second at coming off as a 15-1 underdog in the Wood.
Well, I put it kind of in a second tier again, but I can't say I think it's as good as, say, Highly Motivated, Midnight Bourbon, or Obesos, or even Sainthood.
I just... Pletcher's the trainer. You give a little bit of a nod there.
Yeah, but, and you got, let's see, Ortiz, Jose Ortiz.
But I just, this one was a cross-off for me, even in Exotis. I just didn't think it was in this class. We're going to go with a long shot that I do think is a little interesting here. It's a very interesting horse, Helium. Won
the Tampa Derby.
Yes, one of the few undefeated horses. Ran as a 2-year-old. Maiden won that one, then won a stakes race, and then quit running. Popped up in the Tampa Derby in March, won that one, and then decided not to run.
Yeah.
It's very hard to get a gauge on this horse here because he's ran 3 races, won all three pretty easy if you go back and look at the film, but he hasn't really
doesn't have the competition.
There's no competition. The Tampa Bay Derby was not it's barely a Kentucky Derby prep race. Right. But once it had the points, it seemed to pack it in, and it didn't want to touch any of those others. Yeah. So you couldn't get a true gauge, but an undefeated horse is an undefeated horse.
Yeah, but so I'm not putting this one.
I'm throwing him in exotics because I'm
I was going to say maybe with exotic bets.
He turns out to be the second coming of Curlin or something, and we
mind that bird.
Yeah, we don't know because he's ran 3 races, 2 of them as a 2-year-old. Just put it away. Julian Leperoux's on him. Really solid jockey.
A good jockey and a good trainer too.
Yes. Marquez.
Cass,
So I just found it hard to really sort of handicap him because you just don't know, and his
odds are 50 to 1.
I know. But that's because he hasn't been raced. But he's one of only 2 undefeated horses in this field. So
it depends on who you're running against.
All right, we'll go to the number 13 Hidden Stash. Bluegrass Runner did not finish in there. Finished second in the said Tampa Bay Derby to Helium. this one was a cross-off.
Yeah,
for me.
I don't think this one's going to show at any point.
Now, I will say the Bluegrass was a pretty deep race.
Yeah,
with two of the Derby favorites, but he was a non-contender. He
Right.
finished, four furlongs back of
Right.
the pack there. So I'm not a fan.
I think there are too many good horses in this race.
I will
don't
say,
think that one's going to be.
breeding off a Constitution, and he's an $85,000 horse. So
Right.
there's some genes there.
Yeah, not all the kids are good. You know.
No, not all the kids are good. The next one, though, this one
yeah.
was a good kid. This
Yeah.
one's valedictorian
Yes.
right now.
Yeah.
Essential Quality, $185,000 horse to tap it.
Yeah.
Won the Bluegrass Stakes, won the Southwest, won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, won the Breeders' Cup Future, and won his only maiden race that he
Yeah.
won. So he's been barely even a 2-to-1 favorite in any race, and he's pretty much, I guess he had a little bit of a race in this Bluegrass where
Although
highly motivated was coming up, but
Yeah.
honestly, I don't know even how seriously he took that race. He had already qualified for the Derby, and he still
Right.
ended up winning it.
well, this is the horse to beat.
Yes.
Unless something very strange happens, this is the horse to beat, I believe. Although, he was the horse to beat in the Bluegrass too, and he didn't really crush it in that race. So I think there is a little bit of, maybe he won't be able
Yes.
to win the Derby.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think when everybody picks a horse that they think is just heads above every other horse, that horse doesn't always turn out to be the winner.
Yes.
But it's hard not to. This is just a fabulous horse in terms of his record.
There are two things here. If you ask
his
me,
breeding,
yes.
too.
If you ask me who I think's going to win the Kentucky Derby, I say Essential Quality. If you ask me who I'm going to bet on, it probably will not be Essential Quality.
No, don't bet on Essential Quality.
Because one, everybody is going to bet on Essential Quality.
Right.
I'm guessing by race time, we'd be lucky to get 5-2.
Right.
He might be going off even money, and to take even money on even the greatest horse in the world in a 20-horse field is just very, very dangerous.
You might win 20 cents.
Yes, you might win 20 cents. Now,
$2.
you have to throw him in your exotics, even with the even money. But
it's going to be strange if he doesn't end up in the top 4 or 5 horses.
I think 4 or 5 would be the floor for Essential Quality. But
I will say you just never can tell when there are 20 horses in a race. But this is
especially a race.
This is a really good horse.
Especially, I think we said where we think the top horses are the ones that are going to have to go to the lead. There aren't that one that ran in the I believe it was the Arkansas that went out to the lead. Los Bezos or something. The one I took.
Bezos. It wasn't that a Baffert horse? Or?
I believe so.
Yeah.
But he was the one that is the speed horse that jumps out front and sets a pace, and he set the pace in that one, but then he pulled out of the Derby.
Right.
And I sort of looked for that, because now we're asking Essential Quality or Highly Motivated or one of these other ones to go set the pace in the Derby, and to go wire to wire in Derby like a Big Brown or something is very, very difficult.
Yes, very hard.
All right, we'll move to the number 15, Rock Your World, the Santa Anita winner, nosed out the Santa Anita. And then won the Pasadena. The weird thing about this one is Rispoli was the jockey on the 2 California races, and they switched.
They changed jockeys.
Here for Churchill to, I don't want to say upgraded, but Joel Rosario is probably a more known Let's Go jockey. He got pulled off the mount. Now Rispoli got on to another mount after getting pulled off. But I just found it weird that they went Rispoli. He ended up winning 2 races on him in Pasadena at Santa Anita, and then you pull him off and put on Joel Rosario. Now Joel did, ride him in a maiden, but it just seemed weird to me.
Has Rosario won a Derby before?
I don't think he has, but he might have.
Yeah, I don't know. I've got that somewhere.
But so Rock Your World. What do you make of Rock Your World?
Actually, he won the Derby on Orb in 2013.
Oh, he was on Orb.
And he was second on national earnings list for jockeys in 2020. So he's got a good.
Well, yes,
he's
I
got a
know.
pretty good
I
one.
know why Joel was
He
put
won
on.
Orb.
I find it weird that you pull off the jockey who wins you 2 straight stake races,
Well,
including the Santa Anita.
You know how that works.
Yes,
It's the
I know.
Derby.
Yes, I know.
I think Rock Your World is a top contender, definitely. This horse has got really good breeding,
Yes.
too. I think Candy Ride is a pretty good horse
That's
that
correct.
he came from,
He's-
as is on his
Empire
mother's,
yes.
Empire Maker on his
Yes.
mother's side. So great breeding, good speed numbers, winner of the Santa Anita Derby. I don't think you can count Rock Your World out.
No.
I think he's a good horse, and depending on what the odds are, I would place a bet on this horse.
I'm a little torn. I can't make my mind up on Rock Your World that much. I definitely will have him in exotics because I think he's sort of built for this type of race. I was a little weirded by the jockey turn. Now I'm not weirded by, I know Joel Rosario is one of the top jockeys. I
Yeah.
just found it weird after you add a jockey on him who won you the San Felipe.
I don't know. I don't think that's unusual in the Derby, though.
I
That
know,
happens
but
sometimes.
It happens, but after you win the Santa Anita, I mean, I get it if you're winning, like the Risen Star, but the Santa Anita, you are on him and you win the
Right.
race, and then you get.
He hasn't
pulled
run
off.
in that many races, though.
No.
So,
But he's won all of them. He's one of the 3, I believe, undefeateds in here.
well, let me tell you, if you don't mind, I had an article that said that all but one authentic last year of the horses that have won the Derby since 2013 had 4 factors in common. Those factors were, let's see now, I've lost my, here we go. Those factors were, they were a first place finisher and had at least 100 qualifying points. They all won a 100-point prep race. All were undefeated in their races as a 3-year-old. And except for Orb in 2013, each of the horses raced forwardly, stalked the pace, pressed the pace, or set the pace. And there are 2 horses in the Derby that meet those 4 criteria that every horse in the past 7 years every Derby winner has had. One of them is Rock Your World, and the other is Essential Quality.
All right. We'll move on to the number 16. This one's a very interesting entry in here because
Yeah.
I don't think up until possibly Monday it totally
was even in there?
I think he was going to be in that race we talked about
Yeah.
with all the other Lexington Stakes
Well,
horses. But King
yeah.
Fury, he is also
I think
a
you have
Curlin.
to take
I'm
this
going
horse
to say
seriously.
this one is
Yeah.
a little fascinating because he has been run with the elites.
Yes.
And he just did not.
He just won. He won the
he ran in the Kentucky Juvenile.
in the Lexington.
And, yes, but he ran
Stakes.
he was a big-time 2-year-old. He
Yeah.
ran in the Kentucky Juvenile, did not run well in that one, so did not go to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. And then only entered in this Lexington Stakes, which is not really a Kentucky Derby prep race. It's held, 2
No,
weeks
but
before
he must
the
have gotten
race.
some points from that.
That's what
yes.
it still counts as some points.
Right.
But people who enter their horses in there because
Yeah.
it's 2 weeks away from the Derby
Derby,
are not
yeah.
thinking it's going to go.
Yeah, because he's just run recently.
Yes,
Yeah.
he ended up in there, dominated that race,
Right.
and then qualified for the Derby.
Yeah.
Enough horses pulled out, and in he comes.
And here comes King Fury. I don't know, long shot bet maybe. I don't see this
Well,
horse
that's what I was going to say.
being in the top 2 or 3.
I don't know if horses. The only thing I'd say, I don't know if horses these days, now, in 90, 80, 70, and before that, running on, 3 weeks rest, I would not factor in. But horses these days literally race 3 times a year and are done. So running him 3 weeks ago and then running him again in 2, big time stakes races is a little weird. But they did run him a lot as a 2-year-old, and then they just didn't run him as a 3-year-old, and then they ran him and he won. So
Well, and he's got great breeding with
Yes.
Curlin being there and his
and he has,
breeding. And
the other thing is he has run against elite level. He beat super stock in the street since. He's run Essential Quality. He's run against Keep in Mind. He's run against Hot Rod Charlie. So, I mean,
He could be a factor.
He's not a nobody horse.
Right.
It just was a weird way he got in.
Again, I mean, I think he could help determine
Yes.
the pace in the race. He's one of those kind of horses, too, I think.
I think actually this was one where I think they probably ran the Lexington Stakes looking at the Preakness to maybe put him in there.
The Preakness,
and then he ended up
suddenly he's
winning,
in the
and then he
Derby.
qualified, and you're
Yeah.
like, well,
I don't know that I don't know about betting any money on this horse, but I don't think you can leave him out of the sort of mid pack
yes, I agree.
of horses.
I definitely put him in exotics. I think
Yeah.
this is one that could sneak in there, especially as horses tire down the stretch if the pace gets really, really hot. All right, next up, the number 17, highly motivated. Now, I will say this is all the, handicappers extraordinaires horse.
Yeah.
They're all in love with this guy because he
Yep.
went nose to nose with Essential
Quality, right?
Now, that being said, he doesn't really have all
He's
that.
also out Into Mischief, which
Yes.
is a big time horse.
That's correct. He's
Yeah.
a Chad Brown horse with
Right.
Javier Castellano.
He's got a lot of things going for him here.
The only thing I will say is he has one stakes win.
Yeah.
I mean, his other win is a maiden race, which, I don't hold. And, it was a third at the Gotham.
But we
which-
liked Sainthood, and
Yes,
it's
I
pretty
know.
much the
It's
same kind of
It's
thing.
a third at the Gotham. But
Yeah.
he got in that Bluegrass Stakes. He ran nose to nose with Essential Quality, and
Yeah.
everybody's like, he's now due. He's building into a great one. So that I will say that sort of makes me hate him every time I now hear every expert
It
handicapper
might be worth a bet, a couple
who
dollars.
is now in love with him. But
Here's the
he
thing.
also did not win the Bluegrass.
That's right.
And I think everybody's
second.
giving him credit for winning the Bluegrass.
Well, that's because he was second behind Essential Quality, which everybody, everyone thinks that's the best horse in the race. Here's the thing about highly motivated. He's running out of the 17 post place, the gate.
Oh, that
17.
was the other thing I was going to
No
bring.
Derby winner, 0 Derby winners have come out of number 17. They're 0-4 since they've been using gates, which was, I think, started in 1930 or 35 or something. That gate has 0-41. So highly motivated is going to have to pull off a miracle here to win the race.
I am not in love with him, but I just, I guess you might throw him in some
He's got
exotics.
karma going against
But
him.
he's not someone I'm betting on just because he ran a close race with Essential Quality.
Right.
The next one is the number 18 Super Stock, and he's the probably will be the tearjerker story. The Emerson people own him.
Oh, yes.
The brother
they
trains
will,
him.
Oh, gosh. They will talk
Ricardo
this one to
Santana
death.
Jr. is on him, and we're
Get
going
ready.
to get the.
If you're watching TV,
I
they're
don't know
gonna
how many
talk
times
this one to
the
death.
tearjerker story documentary is going to run on Derby
Yes.
Day, but the over/under is
Mom
set
and
at
Dad's horse here.
4 and 5 here for this one. Now, that being said, I do sort of like Super Stock.
Yeah.
Winner of the Arkansas Derby. Now, people are sort of holding that against him because all of a sudden, all Baffert's horse sucked in the Arkansas Derby, and they're like, oh, well, the Arkansas Derby wasn't all that deep. But there were like 3 horses who had as Derby
Right.
favorites going into it, and then none of them showed
None
up.
of them are in the race, right?
And
Except
we're-
Superstar.
And then all of a sudden we're like, no, this wasn't a great race. So
yeah.
I do take the Arkansas Derby pretty seriously. I think it's one of the elite prep races to the Derby, so I like seeing the winner here. I thought he ran a great race in the Arkansas Derby. Other than the Arkansas Derby, it's sort of hot and cold finishes, though, especially in his 2-year-old season. So what do you think of Superstock?
Well, I'm not going to bet on Superstock, and I'm not going to recommend him either. It's certainly worth a look, but another factor, though it's a feel-good story,
Yes,
the Asmussen family, but that trainer has horses in the Derby, Preakness, and Belmont every year, plus a lot of other big races. He is 0-21 in the Kentucky Derby, and I don't know that makes him a loser or due for a win, but I'm not going with Superstock.
Yeah. I might I'm definitely putting him in some exotics. I haven't totally decided what I'm going to do with him based on the Arkansas Derby. I was one of the one who bought into the other horses in the Arkansas Derby and did not get them. But anyway, we'll take a peek at Super Stock. Okay, the number 19, the horse that will probably be bet the most by people who just bet on
Love
name.
that name, right? I have already heard from members of my family. Oh, I put a vote on Soup and Sandwich.
So Soup and Sandwich, the name horse of the race.
Yeah.
So that 30-1 odds might end up at 20-1 because people like the horse's name.
Well, and came in second behind No Virginia at the Florida Derby.
Run a great Florida Derby.
Right.
Before that, 2 wins. Now there were 2 wins in a maiden and allowance race. So, do with that what you will. But a good race at the Florida Derby, right behind Known Agenda.
Right.
So how serious are you taking Soup and Sandwich?
Not very serious. I'm afraid he's not in my my second tier. I love the name too. He's got pretty 30-1 odds, I think, at this point. So if he did show up just like he did in the Florida Derby, you could win a little money on this one. But I'm just having trouble in this class of race seeing this horse finish in the top 3.
Yeah, I'm not quite there with Soup and Sandwich, but I probably will throw him in some exotics because
I could see that.
I was impressed with that Florida Derby race, but it's really it's a little like helium. It's really hard to judge off a maiden and allowance race, and then you go into a big race, you run well, and then you're like, well, what do I do with that? Was it a fluke, or are you going to be a horse that wins money for the next 5 years? So really, really interesting with Soup and Sandwich. The last one, the Pletcher one, Bubonic. Won the Wood Memorial, so
very slow Wood Memorial, and won it at the last bit there.
Wood Memorial. Yeah. I will also say he was a 72-1 long shot to win the Wood Memorial.
He surprised a lot of people.
Now that being said, Bernardini breeding, so I mean he's got some class to him.
Yeah, dancing a fleet by a fleet Alex.
I mean, you look at genes, and he's got genes. But.
He's not going to win.
Is there magic here,
no.
or is there not magic? I believe this is also the one that has the black jockey on the Kentucky Derby. So.
He does. Kendrick Carmouche is an African American jockey in there. I don't believe there's been one run in the Derby for a very, very long time.
I think it was like the third.
Interesting enough, African American jockeys used to ride all the horses, and the first Derby was won with a black jockey. That used to, until, the 20s and 30s.
We want to peel back those layers.
Well, we probably don't, but a little American history here. When Jim Crow laws and segregation came along, the black jockeys sort of disappeared. They were pushed out. And, of course, more recently, it's been more about Latin American jockeys.
Well, the French ones have started to...
And France, there have been European jockeys, too. But anyway, I think it's a nice story. I wish Kendrick Carmouche good luck. But I'm afraid I don't pick him as the last horse.
Day trade for essential quality.
No, but I picked other horses to come in last. This horse is not going to come in last.
No, I'm interested with this one because of the breeding.
I think he'll come in the second tier rather than
the
first
tier. And then you
tier.
look at him, it's just hard to tell. He didn't start out all that good, and then, he finally seemed to found his legs. He had a bad allowance race right before that, which is probably why he was a 75-1, and then he won. But it was a very slow Wood Memorial. But the only thing I could say, this Derby might be a slow race too.
It might, although the weather's going to be good.
Yeah, I know. And I think if it's a slow race, then essential quality is hitting out front. And
if it's a slow race, then one of the favorites will definitely win.
I do think this will probably be slower than some of the Derbies in past, and he sits there, and then down the stretch.
They might hold their horses back a little bit,
there he comes. But I maybe throw him in some
it's
exotics.
Also in the 20th. He's got to go wide,
So
he's got to come in from way
I
out
thought
there.
Maybe throw him in some exotics, but I would probably not go with him to win. at all. All right, so
I might add, this horse is out of Calumet Farm, and Calumet Farm has won the most derbies, although they haven't won one in a very long time.
oh yeah, I remember hearing that too. They used to be the dominant one, and
Yes.
now they are no longer the dominant one. But maybe we get a triple thing here.
Let's see, who's in gate number 5? Sainthood.
Sainthood is in gate number 5.
More Derby winners have come out of 5 than any other gate.
That's correct.
It won't be Sainthood, though, will it?
I'm curious how many.
They
of
must
those,
be feeling
since
lucky,
the
though.
field started getting to 20 horses.
Yes.
How many gates?
Yeah, many of those were before there were 20 horses.
All right. So, what are your final Kentucky Derby picks?
All right, do you want me to pick like 1, 2, and 3?
Give
or
me your 1, 2, and 3.
All right. I'm going with Essential Quality, Known Agenda, and Hot Rod Charlie.
Okay, I'll just throw in a couple that I like because I don't have my bets totally what I want them to be yet. I'll have those on Winning Daily.
Yeah,
on
I just
Saturday.
made mine right then and there. Those were my picks right off the top of my head.
Mandaloon and Sainthood will definitely be in my mix along with Midnight Berman. And I might throw a little on the number 12 Helium as a long shot. And,
Those are all long shot bets, though.
and hope that he's great. Well, Mandaloon was not going to be a long shot until the Louisiana Derby disaster.
Yeah.
2021.
Okay.
All right. That's our Kentucky Derby preview show. Have a great day watching the races. I'm GLN Champ 5 on Twitter and Instagram. That's our show, and we're out.